Good afternoon. Who has jet lag here? Who's okay? Well, this is just the panel for you. We will wake you up.
Exactly.
Today's panel is all about resiliency. And before we jump into that, I thought we could all introduce ourselves. I'll kick it off. My name's Lisa Carmel. I'll moderate the panel today. I'm chair of business development at Mayo Clinic. I lead our strategic partnering for the global enterprise for Mayo Clinic, and that's across all the different verticals from biopharma, medtech, device diagnostic, and so on. And I'm part of the overall ventures group.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Amy Kruse. I'm a neuroscientist by training. I have a PhD in neuroscience. Started my career at DARPA as a program manager, building sort of high-risk, high-reward technologies for the government. And then more recently, I'm now a venture investor. So I run a venture fund called Satori Neuro that's focused on mental health, brain health, application of neuroscience technology, sort of under a larger framework of what I call human flourishing. And so happy to be here representing that perspective.
Brilliant. So good afternoon. My name is Agnieszka Janeczek, and my background is in medical biotechnology, but I'm also a co-founder and CEO of Renovos Biologics. I don't have jet lag. I traveled here from the UK. We're a spin-off from Southampton University, so just an hour down south. And we're based there in the Science Park. So we are pioneering the use of synthetic nanoclays as carriers for precision therapeutics delivery, with the first market target being orthobiologics and specifically the BMP2 protein delivery. There's lots of complications with the current protein as it's used in spinal fusion procedures. We're trying to overcome that by developing an injectable product, a product that safely retains the protein at a reduced dose that helps us reduce the cost of the biologic itself, and also in the future impacting the cost of the very costly spine procedures. So we really have a platform that allows unprecedented retention of biologics. So in addition to BMP2, there's other avenues that we're developing in our career currently. So happy to be here and talk about the technology and the company and the resilience a bit more.
Great. I'm Hilary Pierce. I'm CEO of Total Flow Medical. My background is in medical devices. So I've going on 18 years in medical devices now, and most of that time has been in structural heart, actually. At Total Flow Medical, our mission is to reduce costs and improve outcomes for patients who need the use of a heart-lung machine. So that is heart surgery, minimally invasive heart surgery, and also in the future, there will also be ECMO patients. Our first product that we're looking to get onto the market is a femoral arterial cannula for use in heart surgery, so minimally invasive heart surgery and robotic heart surgery.
Cool. We have a great panel today. You can see different viewpoints coming in here. So before we jump in, I think it's always helpful to understand like the phase of where you are at your company or and your most immediate milestones, upcoming milestones. Basically, why are you here at LSI this week?
You guys start, and then I'll say why I'm here.
Okay. So I'm here, obviously, probably as most co-founders and CEOs are, for fundraising. We're raising a $5 million round at Renovos that will help us progress towards first proof of concept in a clinical setting. I'm also here to network with potential co-development partners and other strategics, as it is a really platform technology that can deliver other biologics outside of BMP2, outside of spine. So really for networking.
And as far as milestones, so we recently, in the spring of this year, we closed our seed extension. And the goals there was to reach regulatory clearance for our first product and also to conduct our first human study. So we're working very valiantly on both of those objectives right now as we speak. And so in 2026, we'll be looking at our commercial financing, and locking in our distribution partners for launch, and continuing to build out our network of minimally invasive cardiac surgeons, our first users.
And LSI, what are you, right? Is there a particular look?
So we're looking for commercialization partners, so financing partners for that, and also introductions to cardiac surgeons, heart surgeons with minimally invasive practices.
And I'm here to meet awesome companies. I think neurotech in general has been growing in the LSI community. I have a lot of colleagues, both in Europe and the US, who have been here. This is actually my first LSI, and really wanted to come and spend some time with the companies that were here and meet new folks, and obviously connect with people that I've already known. So that's already happened since I've been here for like 4 hours. So it's been great.
Yeah, and I would say, for myself, for Mayo Clinic, I'm obviously here to connect and partner. It's in my title, and that's what I love to do. But I have a particular eye out for robotics, automation, surgical innovation, cardiology, imaging, whether it's a device, data, AI. So I've got my eye out on people that want to co-invest in the space. And
actually, I was going to ask, I should have mentioned, are you mainly early? Like, I'm generally like seed, Series A, can be a little bit later. How about you when you look at, partnering, things like that? What stage are companies at?
I wouldn't want to peg us, but we do a lot of early stage, seed stage, but at the same time, we do a lot of co-development with much more mature companies that are looking at a next-gen technology or a next-gen platform too. So, awesome. Well, okay, so we've got this topic around resiliency, but I thought maybe we could kick it off with first defining because resiliency is a very attractive quality that I think we're all lead into. But the question is how do you perceive it? And I'm wondering if you want to just throw out some how you think about it, descriptors.
Yeah, maybe flexibility. Like that's one thing that I think about is sort of the ability, flexibility, adaptability, sort of like nimble responsiveness.
You're getting all the good adjectives. Sorry. I'm joking.
I think for us it's long-term view and knowing what the goal is in sight at the end as well, to really be resilient to push for that.
So I thought long and hard about this one, and I was thinking of it more as like an equation. There's like a state, and then there's also a function of time. So for me, it's like buoyancy, but not buoyancy in like a placid lake. It's like buoyancy in really rough seas, plus sort of perseverance. Like going the long haul.
Yeah, I was going to say I think I agree. I think it's the ability to stay focused, but yet flexible. I think there's the aspect of being able to smartly pivot at the right time. And then I also think of them as being really savvy future proofers. So, yeah. Okay, so with this topic of building resiliency, usually there's a challenge, a burden that you have to navigate or address. How about each of us describe how you are either building resiliency with your organization, or maybe in your case, Amy, you want to tackle or discuss one of a portfolio company that you think has been particularly successful?
Yeah, no, I guess two things that come to mind in the context of this. One is just what a challenging fundraising environment it's been. It feels really important to say that out loud, even as an investor. And I think companies have been really creative around, both raising capital, maybe accessing non-dilutive funding. Like it really feels sort of an all hands on deck in this capital environment. And I think part of that resiliency is bringing I often tell people, like, put your investors to work. If they're good investors, they should be helping you and making introductions and things like that. And so there's been a lot of that this year. Obviously as a fund, I have to do my own fundraising, but I've been doing a lot of fundraising for my companies. And I think that's really important. And I think that's something that companies should ask for from their investors. On the more pointed topic of particular portfolio companies, exactly. One of the things, I was on a panel this morning, we talked about neurotech being a platform type, technology, and therefore the number of indications that you can possibly go after can actually be quite broad. And so I had a company this year who started the year thinking they were going after one indication, but also had a couple other things in the back pocket. And when that first one, was clearly not going to work, we were able to very quickly get some KOLs on the phone, get some early clinical data with some academic partners, and shift the company's focus towards a new indication. And fortunately, they had enough capital to do that. But that was a real, this year, when you start a year thinking you're doing one thing, and then, now it's, October and we're working on a different indication, and sort of leaning in on that was really, really nimble.
Great. Well, my example would probably be in the supply chain area. So as you say, kind of future-proofing the business. When we started the company, we work on synthetic nanoclay as a delivery biomaterial. We're pioneering its use in the medical field, so it became quite clear really early that we wouldn't be able to tap into supply at the appropriate clinical grade, because there just wasn't any available. And we were a small team at the time, but we had great expertise in the space, and, like I said, right agility in the team and the ability to pivot. We established in-house manufacture of the synthetic nanoclay initially, with the aim to eventually translate it towards GMP grade materials that can be supplied for other carriers. We could develop it ourselves. It's a material that's used in the cosmetics industry a lot, in the pharmaceutical industry as a rheology modifier. So thanks to that in-house capability, we were able to add huge value and additional IP as well. But what we managed to achieve actually last year is already produce some clinical grade batches of the material. So we're really moving towards the GMP grade and being able to supply the first synthetic nanoclay. We call it a Renovite, which is improved for medical applications. So that's created a lot of value in the company. And I think, we wouldn't be able to do it without the team that was willing to take on a challenge, and also with the long-term view that's actually going to create a lot more value along the way than just using a supplier.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yep, that's huge. I'm also going to tap into the theme of finance, since everybody likes it. It's a hot topic here at LSI, it seems. So, we recently in the spring, we closed an extension, and so I guess from the company, or from the startup CEO side, there's kind of two elements that I was thinking of speaking to around challenge and resilience, and one is sort of the psychological aspect as a startup CEO, when you're hearing for a few years how challenging the environment is. I think for us is kind of tapping into almost like a primitive instinct, almost like a parenting instinct, where you're just not going to quit. Like, you've just made the decision that you're not quitting. Like, when it gets really hard, you don't quit. You just have to keep going. So I feel like, I think that's one thing I always felt very helpful when I heard someone, it just takes one yes. It takes one yes to get your lead investor. It takes one yes to tap into a whole new network of investors and connections. And then around kind of resiliency, one of the things, also kind of doubling down on what you said, that we did was take a creative approach as much as we could. That every person that sort of is involved with our business, be it like investor advisor or mentor, can support us on multiple planes. So we have users, we have surgeons, and we have clinicians as investors. We have distributors as investors. We have a healthcare system that is invested, and we have incredibly well, experienced medtech executives as investors as well. So that's some of the things that we've sort of done. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, this is slightly off topic, or I mean, not off topic, it's just an add-on observation. We were discussing this morning, and you said that you had some amazing mentors, who's a mutual friend. But I think that adds right on to this. You were talking about Andrew Cleland and Marga at Fogarty Innovation. So identifying those mentors, advisors, also, it seems to have been a great choice on your part.
Yeah, like building out your community or your village or your hamlet, or everyone has a say, your clan. I think has been, yeah.
Well, I was going to say at Mayo, I'd say that we classify as a resilient institution. We are founded, interestingly, in 1864. After Dr. Mayo was tasked with heading to Rochester he was asked by President Clinton to go and assess the health of the troops, and Dr. Mayo's wife said, "Okay, I'll move one more time, but I'm not going to move after that." And so, he basically stayed, and they founded the Mayo Clinic. And fast forward to today. It's now one of the leading healthcare institutions globally. So I would say the way that I see Mayo Clinic as continuing to be resilient is that they're always looking ahead. That future proofing comes into play here, thinking ahead of what are the patient needs for the future. And there's a strategy that's publicized at Mayo Clinic called Bold Forward Unbound. And this is a strategy that permeates the institution, where we're building for the next era in patient care. And I think institutions like Mayo, where there's inherent knowledge and about unmet needs of patients, clinicians, and these insights, that there's a responsibility that we have to use it, to leverage it, and to partner to build for better solutions for inpatient care going forward. And a couple examples that I can draw on and share is, you may be aware that Mayo's investing $5 billion to build the hospital of the future. It'll be completed in the Rochester campus. Right now, there's a lot of construction, a lot, but it'll be completed in 2030.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because it's a blank slate. We're designing and building for the future in healthcare, but with the idea that we'll be partnering with a lot of folks with the technologies that you'll need for beyond. So the spaces are reconfigurable spaces. So the needs dictate that it be a hospital unit or an OR or a diagnostic imaging suite with full robotics as needed. It can be reconfigured. Another way that we're looking ahead to be future-proofing, resilient, is we're partnering, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking at robotics, clinical and surgical robotics. I don't know if you've heard of Sir Mix-a-Lot. It's a robotic system that mixes chemotherapy infusions for Mayo Clinic Cancer Center. So it has a dual purpose. It helps Mayo staff reduce their exposure to chemotherapy medications, but it also frees up staff and personnel so they have more human interaction and time, so that other tasks can be, automated and so forth. And so in this way, I guess, I think that Mayo's seeking to create resiliency by building this for the Mayo business and patient care, but also creating an ecosystem where we can, with innovators, can thrive.
Right. Yeah. So you'll be looking to bring in new technologies, not just technologies from the Mayo ecosystem.
Oh, no. That's why we're here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So
Got a few technologies for you.
yeah, so she taught. So let's see. So we've got plenty of time. We zipped right through, things. But I was going to say, one idea is to look ahead at 2026, and if we have an investor on the panel, can you just look in your little crystal ball and tell us what are the challenges you think we might be facing?
I never want to say we're out of the woods because it always feels like there's more woods as soon as you get out of the one set of woods. But I would say that we are definitely seeing capital start to move again and rounds start to come together. I think a lot of the stuckness from earlier this year, probably driven by tariffs and some supply chain concerns. I mean, there was a lot going on. And I think we're really in a spot right now where that's sort of loosening up. As always, I think, great outcomes, exits, positive news, definitely helps, drive investors. I think, frankly, if interest rates go down, it helps. I mean, it seems, very linear and silly, but, if people can make 5% of their capital just sitting there, sometimes investing doesn't look like the greatest deal. So I think we're in a decreasing interest rate environment that will also help capital come back into the space. And I think I have seen just truly outstanding companies. And so I think, companies that have been able to weather the storm over the last few years have come out more resilient and, look like great investments that have made a lot of progress. So, I'm very bullish. We are deploying capital right now. We are continuing to look to deploy capital. I have friends out now who are raising their second or third fund and are, getting ready or are deploying capital right now. So I do think we're in a better environment, and I do think it's looking good for next year. So.
Well, I was just wondering, we have a little bit of time. Is there one of your portfolio companies you want to highlight?
Sure. So one portfolio company, very exciting, that has been, kind of had a little bit of a breakthrough year is called Ampa Health. They are building essentially a very portable, deployable transcranial magnetic stimulation system. So imagine it fits not on one of those big machines where it's on a big cart, but literally in a suitcase. And this year they're using it for mental health treatment, primarily depression, anxiety. They're testing a variety of different outcomes. But this year they paired it with a simple, neuroplastogen. So decycloserine, which is something that's already on the market. It doesn't need any kind of fancy new approval, although combining them, we will probably seek approval. But pairing that neuroplastogen with the TMS treatment, they're getting remission for depression in 1 day. And if anybody knows anything about TMS treatment, it used to be weeks long. And then there was the Saint treatment, which was shorter, but it was still a week. So they're seeing remission within sort of one treatment for individuals, which is really, really exciting. And they've come up with a sort of novel business model. They're not actually trying to sell hardware. They're actually using more of a subscription sales model where people are sort of taking out leases on the equipment and having more of a recurring revenue model. And so TMS clinics are very excited about it. They're thinking I could have 5 of these systems, whereas before I would have bought one giant one on a cart. And so that company is having a real breakout year, not only in terms of revenue and sales, but also in terms of the number of lives that they've been able to impact really quickly this year. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Now, do you invest in European companies?
Yeah, so we've invested in the UK, definitely looking at European companies as well. The great thing about neurotech in the brain is it's really incredibly international. I was on a panel this morning with my colleague, Jacques Carolan from ARIA, the UK's sort of version of DARPA, and the amount of money that they're deploying right now. They have a £65 million program looking at precision neurotechnologies. And so I'm, eagerly waiting with a catcher's mitt to see what comes out of some of the things that he's investing in. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Agnieszka and Amy, do you see different challenges in Europe versus US right now?
So I would say capital-wise, it's probably similar. The VCs are still investing slightly larger rounds, later stages. So with early stage investment, I think it's a similar situation, especially with the regulatory and the political landscape. So just with regards to resiliency, we have to get creative exactly how we can tap into non-dilutive funding, some charities for support, some corporates, and even, think about licensing of the technology outside of the core area. It takes a village, as you said, right?
Yeah. For both of you, for investors, are your investors primarily EU, UK, US? Like, what's your mix of investor base?
So to date, we were supported mostly by European investors and UK investors. Also UK corporate, UK research charity, so Orthopedic Research UK invested in us in equity as well. Because our primary market will be US market for our first product, we are actually raising around now, trying to expand this into US investors and also outside of the usual areas, in other spaces where medtech is hot. So, we're trying to expand that.
The village. How about you?
We're actually based in Canada. So we're based in Vancouver in Canada. So we have both Canadian, US investors, and we actually also have one European investor as well.
And are you also talking to family offices?
Yes. Yeah. We have family office. Yeah, we have family offices as investors as well. And in Canada, we also have great opportunities for taking advantage of tax credits,
Absolutely,
and non-dilutive funding as well. So,
yeah. I was going to say that that's maybe related to the resiliency topic and other things. Like, I do think it's those diverse sources of capital, that way that, family office money or what, there's now this category sort of called venture philanthropy, right? Where people are taking traditionally dollars that would have been philanthropic, maybe grant making dollars, and directing some of those towards actual, companies and venture investing, both funds as well as direct investing in companies. I think that's a great move. Where I've seen it be most successful is with the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, ADDF. They've done grant making, they've done moonshots, they've done venture philanthropy, and all of a sudden now we have, a blood test for Alzheimer's diagnostics that I don't think would have happened without that sort of capital being brought together. Trying to get something like that going for sort of my neurotech space, right? Again, I think neurodegeneration and dementia are top of mind for people, but you could do the same thing in, mental health or other neurodegenerative conditions. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, Hillary and I was on that point. We're talking about other venture sources, and one of them is, which is sometimes not thought about, but American Heart Association, Lisa Sunan, and they just launched. She just launched a women's health fund.
Yeah, the Red for Women.
Their brain, focused on brain, and women's health, but of course cardiology. So that's another source.
Yeah. Well, that's a big movement right now, is the sort of heart brain connection, right? They're sort of saying what's good for the heart is good for the brain, and I think we're starting to see a lot of things in that space, as well as with women's health as well. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say we were gonna end up this panel with some advice to the startups in the room. And do you want to kick it off?
I think the CEO should kick it off.
Or also, like, what do you know now that you wish you'd known at the start of it? We might run out of time on that one, but
the advice to yourself 8 years ago.
Okay.
I'm happy to kick it off. So I think maybe alongside the lines of quality always beats spin, and something to be aware of that, persistence and perseverance and grit are all important for resilience. But actually the long-term view and the long-term belief in not only yourself, but actually what you're building and the technology that brings value is what gets you through all the difficult times, being critique, being unfavorable markets, any FDA issues. So that kind of quality and knowing that you're bringing value because you've tested it, you've got data for it, and you know that your customers will eventually benefit from it, and everyone will see through that. That's kind of what driving is. So the long-term belief in what you're bringing to market, bringing value, and that kind of helps you buffer out all the noise that will happen inevitably in the way. So kind of that logical, cool, calm approach, knowing that what you're doing is the right thing to do, and eventually it will pan out.
And I'll start by kind of spinning it back to the clan. I think is, I guess I just keep mentioning or going back to that, but one source of incredible, inspiration and support and really being able to lift each other up is other startup founders, startup CEOs. So building out that network has been incredibly helpful. And also I would say like in the climate where we need to be, extremely capital efficient, that it doesn't mean that it has to cost you. It doesn't require capital. And I think that's another, we've participated in a number of different accelerators and incubators that have been incredibly supportive in different ways. We graduated from the Creative Destruction Lab. I'm not sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that's how we got our first lead for our first financing, for our pre-seed financing. And then we were fortunate to participate in MedTech Innovator. Actually, Agnieszka and I were in the same cohort.
Same cohort, yeah.
And that's, an incredible resource for, then and just like forevermore ongoing, a big resource for other startup CEOs. And then I was also going to mention, Fogarty Education. We mentioned Andrew Cleland and Margot Ortigas-Wedekind, but they have a phenomenal ongoing speaker series, which is free, that anyone can listen to. And it's incredibly high value content that you can access, and you don't need to pay to grow that group around you of believers. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I'm going to return probably to what I said a little bit earlier, which is sort of, make the ask. I think it's part of that building the village and your clan sort of thing. I think, there are a lot of resources out there, a lot of people who want to help. And I think it's important to continue to ask, and whether, the person, like you said, maybe figuring out what they can provide for you or what they can do is help. I think you should really, I think, although it's difficult in a capital constrained environment, I still think you're interviewing your potential investors as partners and people that will be along that journey with you. And I think it's totally fair to say, to interview them back, and talk about the resources that they have and what they can provide. I think it's a real privilege as an investor to get to work with CEOs and founders, and I try to show up for my CEOs and founders every day. And so I think it's important to ask. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think along similar lines, I would say that, I would recommend picking your partners wisely and look for resilient partners that can help you elevate your technology, elevate patient care, partners that invest time and energy, mentoring, anyone that is mentoring and giving of themselves for the greater good has my seal of approval. And those are the kind of people that I look to learn from myself and support. So I think those always deliver above and beyond expectations. And I will say that I think that you're likely to meet many of those kinds of people from 6 to 7 p.m. This evening at the Women in MedTech reception. Plug. You don't have to be a female to attend, but it'll be in the Albemarle suite. So that's somewhere in the building.
I think it's up
there.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Well, I get lost every time I
know.
out the door here.
I was standing around. I'm like, I have to go upstairs to go downstairs. Okay.
Yeah. And then I would say if the other piece of advice. If you're interested in partnering with Mayo Clinic, we have a workshop tomorrow, and by workshop, we want it to be interactive. Come ask us questions. We can tell you more about our funds. We do invest in companies that we have collaborations with. We can talk more about that tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm going to go to the workshop.
You're all invited. So, is there any questions? I think we actually finished early. I can't believe it, but we have a couple minutes if anyone has a question. Okay, no one's brave enough, so I think we're good.
We're good. Thank you so much. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks to our panelists.
Yeah.
Thank you to LSI.